I wanted to tell you, most of you may or may not know, I'm Rick Gravy, I'm an optometrist, and I don't do any general optometry, I do more neuro-optometry, and that's kind of the whole purpose today, explain what we do. And I said, we don't really have an elevator talk, so we'll kind of cover as much as we can on that. Hopefully, love questions and things like that as we're doing this. But what happens, my brief story, I started practicing, my first 6 years of practice, I didn't want anything to do with vision therapy. I said vision therapy was voodoo, crazy, quackery, I was 100% against it. We now have the only clinic in Kentucky that's 100% vision therapy. So that's kind of what we're doing now. The two groups we work primarily with, we work with special needs up to pro athletes to anywhere in between, but my two passions that I really work primarily are bright kids, not showing the rest of the world how bright they are, and then also with brain injury patients. You know that So those are the two groups we have. I always kind of want to start with you guys. Can think in your classroom that kid who has a hard time just sitting still in class. Every time he's writing, he's got another kid has a head on things when he's doing his homework. Another's constantly poking the kid in front of him. Kid who shows up late for class, always forgets his books, things like this. All these different things, but basically, kind of these bright kids not able to show the rest of the world how bright they are. And I think everybody in this room could go, oh, I could name 6 right now. With that, to them, when you start really looking at issues, this comes from a Nobel Prize winning Harvard laboratory. It's a research laboratory of PhDs, not optometrists, so they don't have any dog in the fight to prove, oh, this is what's happening. But their findings and their studies, 75% of individuals who have difficulty with reading will have binocular vision dysfunction. And thanks to TikTok, a lot of people heard, oh, BVD. so that's the binocular vision dysfunction. We'll explain a little what that is, how that works. But my contention is that's still, if you look at what else is 75% of these individuals struggling in school, what else is involved with 75% of those things? So in my mind, that should be one of the first things we look for, and to rule it out or see it's the cause of the problem. And one of the reasons, it's kind of cool, but it is the cause of the problem, there's solutions, there's answers. We have, with our program we'll get into, our average patient in 30 weeks will show a 3.5-year jump on skill levels. And once those skills are fixed, they're fixed. It's by creating new pathways in the brain. So over 90% of our patients don't need to come back for additional therapy, whatever, because we've got to fix the root cause of what's causing the problem for that too. So I always start off with just the complexity of the visual system. And what happens, the visual system, there's like 1.9 million fibers coming out of each eye. 70 to 90% of the pathways in the brain are involved in vision directly or indirectly. Everybody in this room, as you're sitting here now, 70% of the information being processed by your brain is coming from your visual system. In school, when your students, it's 85% of what you're presenting to them is going to be through the visual system. And there's a big difference between eyesight and vision, and hopefully that was what we'll be conveying today to show you the difference on those kind of things. But all these vision skills have to be learned, and if we said, let's just test everybody here, we would all have different levels of skill, of how are we doing on this, how are we doing on this, those different things. And so everybody I see is one question: what do you need to do in your world? My question is, how's your performance match up? And if somebody's doing well, I go, if you're happy, I'm happy. But if you're not, I said, this is where we should probably start looking for these things, because we'll do tests that I know they haven't had done before, because some I know we're the only one in Kentucky doing some of these tests with that too. But it is an instance of, one of the things has to do, like, let's just talk about reading, which is what somebody's going to have for school performance. But if you look at the retina on the back of the eye, there's a retina on the very back of the eye, and there's a little spot on there called the macula. It's no bigger than a ballpoint pen opening. And so what happened, the macula is the only part of the retina that can see 20/20. So when you want to see 20/20 with your eyes, it's like me giving you a laser pointer and say, keep it on that 20/20, keep it on the 20/20, now move them together. That's what we're doing all day long. But the reason we can do that is because so much brain power is devoted to that. But you can't make an eye move without some message in the body. You can't make a body move without some message in the visual system. There's so much going on behind the scenes that we just take for granted. But what happens with reading, same concept, in the distance, our eyes will always move together. Up close, our eyes have to turn in, they have to cross. That's convergence. They have convergence, and that's the biggest thing we see is convergence and sufficiency. That's by far the number one thing that we see. And the muscles that move and point the eyes are over 100 times stronger than what they need to be. So there's nothing I ever need to do to say, we need to make those muscles stronger. We need to give better control. I use a simple analogy. My fingers are way strong enough to play piano, but you don't want to hear me play piano. I don't have it up here on how to control those. And that's what happens. All these skills have to be learned in that regard. But so to read a book, you have to go laser pointer, a lens inside the eye has to flex and focus so that you can end up seeing things up close. Then you have to keep these two together as you move your eyes across the page. Then you have to phonetically decode those words. We say those words in our head, we process them auditorily, then we turn them into pictures. And when all that happens without just automatically muscle memory, brain, I say no brain dump, we'll get into that. But with no brain dumps involved, then it's like, oh yeah, cool, it's like a movie in my head. But when it's not, it's like, it's like, what's this story about? I've just read a bunch of words. Like if you guys spoke French, I could read a book in French to you. I'm just reading syllables. You would say, you mispronounced a lot of those words, but you get the gist of what I was saying. I would have no clue what I was saying because I can't do that. So we can break down all the skills you need from visualization to auditory processing to eye tracking to eye pointing. What do you need in order to be a good reader? And that's kind of what we'll do, break those down. And if there's problems in any of those, we have programs to say, here's how we can improve and correct those. So that's kind of what we do. One of the things that we're looking at is just, when you look at the complexity of just, in 1840, we stuck an eye chart on the wall. And that's usually still what's happening. You go to the eye doctor, we go, let's just look down here and read an eye chart. And that came around, Dr. Snellen had an assistant, he had good acuity, good vision. And he said, you can see this size letter at 40 feet, that's 20/40. You can see this size letter at 20 feet, that's 20/20. And it's not a bad thing, it's just a relative value, but that's still just the first part of vision. Vision to me is really 4 parts. You have to get a clear image, and that's what eye doctors are very good, myself included. That was my school training was very good at saying, what do you need glasses to see clearly? Or contacts, whatever. Then your brain though has to process what your eyes are seeing. And that means pointing, moving, tracking, focusing. It also means judging how much space and distance is there. Who's sitting there versus who's sitting there, where's the door, those kind of things. All those are processing issues. So there's a whole lot going on processing, from eye pointing as well as to make sense out of what you see. Then there's sensory integration. So when I sit here, if I tip like this, my spine is turned to the right, and it's telling my brain, hey, we're tipped to the right. My vestibular system is saying, we're tipped to the right. And then my vision is saying, we're tipped to the right. And we're all in agreement. And so when we're all in agreement like that, it's like, hey, the world makes sense to us. If you get off the tilt-a-whirl, or you do the birthday party back where you kind of spin around, you get your vestibular system going this way, and your vestibular says this is straight ahead, and your vision says this is straight ahead, and they don't match up, and we have that kind of follow-over scenario. And we have whole programs for balance and things like that. We can maybe get into a little of that too, but I'll stay focused more on the school related. But if you're interested in those, we can cover those as well. But all of these things are capable. Vision has to be learned. Nobody's born knowing how to use your arms, your legs, your hands, or your eyes. You have to learn how to do this. And what I love about neuroplasticity, it doesn't matter if you're 8 or if you're 98, your brain can rewire itself. What I don't like about neuroplasticity, we all have to learn this initially. And so many patients that I'm seeing, they haven't learned it as efficiently as they could. So I always say they learned the country road method, which when we're small in the middle, they go, that's all I needed to do, and I'm okay with that. But then they start having to read books, catch balls, drive cars, and they start going, I'm not too good at this. They start seeing, I always say the learning to read, reading to learn, you start seeing this gap take place as they go up the gap too. And so what happens is, with neuroplasticity, your brain can rewire itself at any point in time, but it is an instance of, it's a simple concept I call brain dimes. I said everybody's brain has limited resources. So think of everybody here has $1 worth of dimes. That's it, $1 worth of dimes. Everybody here. you go into a task and subconsciously your brain is going, where and how do I spend these 10 dimes? So you're a little kid learning to walk, you go, walking's cool, but it's taking 60 cents of my brain dollar. But you go, but it's cool, I'm gonna do this. So you do it, and then what happens? You go, this is cool, but I can't keep spending 60 cents every time I walk across the room. So it says, let's create a pathway for that. That's Hebb's law. Nerves that fire together, we're wired together. You know, the only pathway that's fully functioning and neurosensory myelinated when we're born is our vestibular system. And when a baby cries, we know intuitively, just stimulate vestibular. And everything else has to be learned, and as our activities we do determine what we're going to do, and how much information we're getting determines how precise those pathways are going to be for that too. But again, if you didn't learn it perfectly the first time, you can still go in and do, whether it be OT, whether it be PT, whether it be speech, whether it be vision, it doesn't care what kind of therapy, that's the same thing. And that's really what you're doing when you're teaching. Hey, I'm teaching this kid to read, let's say. You're teaching the pathways. What do I need to do to be able to read? How do I decode words? How do I break phonics down? Those kind of things. And once it's there, it's like, got it. They're repeated over and over again, and that pathway's in there. And that's why, like I said, over 90% of our patients never need to come back, because we make sure we get it embedded. Any therapy protocol should have 3 phases to it. The first third, you're saying, what works for this patient? What really they respond well to? Middle third, you go, oh look, all your numbers are better, your scores are better, your skills are getting better. The final third is just getting automatic. So we get all these skills, and you go, get a clear image, process that image, integrate, and act. And when all 4 of those are working, you just don't have any problems. And then it gets into processing. There's 2 types of processing. When light hits your eye, and it sends a message back through the brain. There's 2 parallel processes going on simultaneously for everybody on the planet every time their eyes are open. The ambient pathway, the word itself means in the background. Focal pathway, what am I focusing on? So roughly 90 to 99% of what we're taught in school, any eye doctor trained anywhere in the world, we're taught focal. What's the eye chart down there saying with that? So it's, what are you focusing on? What are you seeing, in other words, or the eyesight part of things? The ambient, the word itself means in the background. But light hits your eye, in 1/10 of a second, the ambient processes, and it's 2/10 of a second is when the focal processes. So the ambient will process everything first, and then 1/10 of a second later, the focal system will process. So I use this example because everybody drove here today. So driving here, light hits your eye, and you're going, okay, your ambient will process at 1/10 of a second. Say, I see there's 6 cars here, 3 are parked, 2 going our direction, there's 1 coming from a side street. It will tell your focal vision, I think you just need to watch the side street. So if I said, what do you see when driving? You'd say, a red car coming my way. And that's what we are seeing. But technically, all this other information, trees, other cars, pedestrians, clouds, is hitting our visual system, and the ambient system will filters that out. So that kid in class who's squirrel everywhere, that's often an ambient vision problem. Maybe the teacher's sitting in class. So it can be for both of us. But in instances, we're the only office in Kentucky that's testing and treating ambient vision problems. And that's what I'm all about. We've got to spread what we're doing, because that's just such a big problem for so many patients. And if you don't look for it, you don't know if it's a problem or not. And it's so much focal and ambient not working together is where this comes in. Every doctor on the planet should agree, yes, there's focal and ambient. That's 100% established. But we're just taught in school, you never need to worry about it. But just a simple statistic, 70 to 90% of any acquired brain injury, stroke, trauma, concussion, whatever you want, any of those, 70 to 90% of those will have an impact on the ambient visual system. They go to the eye doctor, they check your focal visual system, they say, you're 20/20, you're fine. But that person goes, yeah, but I can't go in crowded rooms. Like, yeah, but it's just too bright for me. I can't handle this. And my balance is off. All those kind of things. Those are ambient vision problems. And so, but ambient is balance, is spatial awareness, is eye pointing, tracking. All of those are ambient vision related with that too. And if you don't check it, you don't know if it's good or bad with that too. So anyway, so get a clear image, process, integrate, and act. And all of these things have to be learned. And so what we've done over the last 35 years, we've developed this program that basically we can say, we do our testing and say, let's see where you are. And then from there, we develop a program specifically one-on-one. What do we need to do to improve this? And as I said, in 30 sessions, our average patient will show a 3.5-year jump on skill levels. And once those pathways are there, if you get that final third where you get things embedded, once that's there, it's like it's there. And I just think it's the coolest thing ever how the brain works. I always joke, I said, I wish fitness worked that way. Once it's like good at that too, but it's not that easy. But it's just, but if you put the work in, there's no shortcut to this. I can't stress that enough. I tell everybody, it's like, I wish I could go, oh, we're good, but it is. But logistically, we have patients come into the office once a week, and we go, here's equipment you need, here's directions, everything you need, but about 20 minutes a day, they come in Monday, let's say they're here, next Monday they're here, next Monday they're here, we change their activities, each Monday they keep stair-stepping up, and so we just kind of walk through these different things, and so we do have a video. Is this kind of where I'm supposed to do that?
Yeah. It can be.
Yeah, this is a patient from Somerset. You may recognize Mom was a teacher here. She still does substitute teaching here with that too. So you'll see it's not just me saying this with that too.
So this is my son Miles and Dana, his mom. And we came to the clinic last fall. We had gone to just our local optometrist to have his eyes checked, and I had some maybe suspicions that something was going on. As a teacher, I just assumed it was dyslexia. But noticed, especially like during the years of COVID and online school, that he was doing some reversals with like these and these. Struggled in reading, didn't necessarily like reading very much. Handwriting was really an area that we noticed. Just some sloppiness, very difficult to read his handwriting. Teachers would mention things like maybe he needs to be checked out for dyslexia, but once again, being an educator and kind of understanding that world, there's really nothing that schools do to address dyslexia. So thankfully, our local optometrist said, hey, there's this clinic in Versailles. His name's Dr. Grady. He's doing some amazing things. He's renowned, like nationwide, for this specific issue that Miles is having. Give it a try. And I will say, like, it's a little bit of a drive from where we live to Versailles, and 30 weeks. I mean, Miles can tell you, like, we're in the car, we're missing school for it. The financial part of it is an investment for sure, but as a parent, you do anything for your kids, and I just believed that it would help him, and we would do anything that we could to help Miles. And so he was super committed to, though, and I have to brag on Miles because he did the homework every single day. And it's kind of like working out. I told you, you can't work out just once a week and like expect it to work. You've got to do the dailiness of vision therapy. It has been miraculous in his life. Like from that fall diagnostic on the iReady, which is what public schools use in Kentucky, to the Christmas, he grew 65 points, which, unless you understand those scoring, that's a jump of 2 grade levels. So miraculous growth. When we went to his spring, I had a meeting this spring with guidance counselor and his reading teacher. He's grown 375% in just reading alone. Last week school ended, and we did the end of the year awards, and my husband and I just looked at each other and said, what a difference a year makes, because 3rd grade, we're sitting there and, Miles got his completion of 3rd grade award, which is great. But last week he got 7 awards, meeting benchmarks, iReady, reading books. Like, that's just something that he's never done before. This therapy program has really worked for him. The therapists here are absolutely incredible. They care about Miles, and they love him and want to see him succeed. But I also think that the hard work that he's put in personally has really made a difference in his life. So I would highly recommend vision therapy. We recommend it to all of our friends, don't we? And yeah, give it a try. It's definitely worth the investment, the time, and you will see the benefits.
It's just that, like, also what helped me with it is just like, I just like feel like I can do schoolwork better and like you don't stress out as much because like you know you can do it. Because like I used to like stress out a lot and like all that kind of stuff because I didn't know how to do this stuff, but now I know how to do it and it's just changed so much.
So those are the kind of things we see regularly. And we have thousands of written testimonials. We've just started doing video. Like I said, we haven't marketed until 5 months ago we started marketing. And so we're going to give you ways you can access the YouTube videos and all these things. We have a lot of like, here's a 2-minute video on stuff we're talking about. Here's a 2-minute video on this way you can access and look at that. But that's typical of what we're seeing. The thing I love, the point that they made is it really is, I always say, we're very fortunate. All we really are doing this, we're coaches and facilitators. The magic in all of this is the patient's brain. You know, your brain knows more about itself than anybody on the planet is going to ever know about brain. You just have to go give your brain the information it needs. It goes, got it, check. It can figure out how to rewire itself. It doesn't know, we call this a hypothalamus, it's a hippocampus, whatever. It doesn't know or doesn't care. It goes, I need to do what? Okay, I'll figure it out. And that's the key, is that's why I say that first third of therapy, you say, what clicks for that patient? How do we get them to make that pathway? And I'll say over and over again, there's many paths up the mountain, they all lead to the top. That's a phrase that we constantly go through, and you guys can relate with that as educators, because like, hey, everybody doesn't learn the same way, but how cool would it be if you had a classroom, everybody had good visual skills, and you could say, here's what it is, they go, yeah, cool, got it. Because I've been told over and over again, with any classroom USA, it's like probably worldwide not that, but a third of the kids are struggling to keep up, a third it's a good pace, and a third are kind of old. That too, and you guys probably can relate with that more than me, but how do you teach to a whole class with all these different levels with that is hard. You don't need me to tell you what that too. You guys should probably come and talk about that yourself with that too. But some of the things we do, we can show you some of the tests we do. Like one of the ones, I will tell you there's a machine came out years back. It's the most precise way of measuring eye pointing tracking. And I always tell people, they could have named that instrument anything they wanted, and they named it right eye. So we come to our clinic, people go, he's obsessed with right eye for some reason. Because they talk about right eye scores. But it's just, that's what I'm talking about. Right eye, the machine, not the patient's right eye. This is 12-year-old.
This is a 7-year-old.
Okay, this is a 7-year-old. Like I said, 7-year-old. And so what we have, there's pursuits, saccades, and fixations. Pursuits is if I said, these are all eye movements. Pursuits is like, look at this, stay with it as it goes over, stay with it as it comes back. That's your eyes are staying with the object. Saccade, which is the next one down, is look here, jump. And reading is a series of pursuits and saccades. This is fixations, just hold your eye steady there as you're doing that. So this, imagine a dark blue pencil attached to the right eye and a light blue pencil attached to the left eye. And everywhere he looked, because if I move my eyes, he's following a red dot, and I have to follow that in a circle. There's 6 muscles to our eyes. We use all 6 muscles in every possible combination. We've done that. And what we want to avoid is the spaghetti. We want this to look more like just a donut. So this was him tracking, and then this was him about 3 months later. And this is doing jump from here to here. Whoop, did I do that? Don't touch it. But anyway, so this is what you have, and you can see, maybe you can see or not, but there's like 3 little circles, but the circle in the center is where the red dot is. So he should go right to that center circle, and you can see he's jumping past it, then going back to it. And then we look over here, he's going right to it with that too, because he's going across. This, you can see he's trying to hold his eyes steady, and they're just all over the place, that too. So you can kind of see just in 3 months, the change that he's made. And again, this is a kid who put the time in, doing that too, period. I always tell people, I'm 99% certain a kid coming home from the hospital will learn to walk and talk because their brain is going to go, that's helpful. How did you figure out how to do that? I can tell anybody here, anybody going through the program, I'm 99% certain if you'll follow the protocol, your brain will go, I'm going to rewire this because that's going to be helpful for me. Once they figure out, that's kind of helpful information, I'm going to be able to do this. So then, does this have a reading on it too? Okay. This is the other thing it does then. It says, okay, now, as you're reading, let's follow your eyes. Let's track your eyes. What's your right eye doing, what's your left eye doing, how many times you lose your place, how far can you turn your eyes in without not working together as a team with that. And if you look here, the red is his right eye. You can see the jumble mess here versus here, and the green is the left, and it's much more steady coming across with this too. These are the actual number readouts that you get. For example, like comprehension is 70%, here it's 90%. Reading rate is 79 words per minute, 241 words a minute. When you're looking at how many times he loses his place, regression, looks like 41 down to 12. So you can measure all of these things. Everything we do is data driven. So it's not like I think that's better. It's like, oh look, this is better. But if you go through all these different things, and when you go through all three levels of therapy, where you go, this is subconsciously skilled, and where it's autopilot, that's when you say, hey, I don't have a problem. And if you looked at our program, and really this applies to what you're doing teaching, it applies to what coaches are doing, what OTs, PTs. This is the graph. When I said I didn't believe in vision therapy in my first 6 years of practice, when I saw this graph is when I go, that's really what vision therapy is all about. And this graph made me a convert to vision therapy. Because I go, that's exactly it. I couldn't find any fault in this. And I still can't to this day. If you look, everything underneath this line is subconscious. Everything above here is conscious. So patients come into our clinic and have jerky eye muscle movements, but they don't know it. It's subconscious. They just know reading's hard for me. I'm tripping over my feet. I can run into the wall, whatever. So what we're doing in therapy, giving them this activity feedback, and they get less jerky. Before you know it, they're smooth and they're subconscious. And one of my undergrad majors was psychology, and I totally understood this concept. Anything we do well has 4 steps to it. Like walking, talking, riding a bike, driving a car. Step 1, we're subconsciously unskilled. A 3-year-old's not even thinking about, can I drive a car? You get to car driving age, up here, step 2, you try driving a car, and you pop the clutch, the car dies. You hit the bike in the drive, you click the mailbox, you run off the edge of the road. So now you go, ooh, I'm now consciously aware I'm not skilled. And now, step 3 is, I'm consciously skilled. I can get the car down the road, but I have to really think about it, taking all my brain times. Step 4, we're subconsciously skilled. And I guarantee, for those of you who went out for lunch, you don't remember part of the trip on back coming back. I mean, almost everybody would be in that situation, and it's because you were thinking of something else. The reason the brain creates these pathways to do things we do repetitively and makes it here, your conscious mind can handle 1, possibly 2 things at a time. Subconsciously, you can handle multiple things. And so that's what should be the purpose of any coaching, teaching, therapy, whatever. Get the skills, figure where the skills are, and then we just take the skills through these levels to where they're down here and say, oh cool, autopilot. And when it's autopilot, then you go, cool, now I can apply that to reading, catching balls, driving cars, whatever. So I'm comfortable in this situation, this situation, this situation, this situation. So those skills get better with that too. So this is the program kind of from a 10,000 foot view if you can look at that. But that's kind of, I will tell you too, be thinking of like, gosh, they're just not getting in school. Think in terms of this. That's what I'm telling our therapists all the time. Don't get too hung up on the details. Like, first of all, just kind of look and say, do they even know? I mean, I tossed a beanbag, it hits you in the head, and I got you. I did great. You're kind of down here somewhere. We go, you have to see where they are on there. Then the question for each patient is, how do you get that patient from here to here to here? And that's what you guys have to do in classroom too. It's not that different with that too. It's just we're working on the skills you need for that, and that's what I'm saying. If we can get those skills autopilot for you, then it's like, oh, good, I can teach, and I don't have to find 16 different ways to show how you teach phonics, whatever, those different things for that too, or whatever it is you're teaching with that. So that's kind of our process. We get this testing, and then once we do the testing, everybody gets a 6 or 8 page report of that. And I highly recommend, like one of the right eye instrument test, the right eye performance test. Once parents get that, I say, hey, I think this is great for teachers to see this too. I think it's great for their eye doctor to see it, their pediatrician, whatever. So everybody's on the same page, seeing what's happened, what's going on with it. Oh, we're working on this, great. Then you can kind of go, how can we help? What about this? What about that? Because at the end of the day, we all want the same thing. We want Johnny to be successful, whatever that may be. But the more you know about this, and then the more we know about, that's why I love feedback from you. I was like, hey, here's a problem we're really struggling with. How do we deal with that? Here's something is this something you could help with these kind of people, with patients? Because, like I said, I don't know. I use this example all the time. I tell people, I think every one of these conditions is a legitimate diagnosis, so please don't read anything into what I'm not saying. But ADHD, dyslexia, dyscalculia, dysgraphia, dysphanesia, or whatever, all these dys's that we have with it too, the APD, SPD, all these different things, it's a series of behaviors. And I always say I love and hate the concept of saying labels are for cans and not for kids, but I don't mind the label in regards of like, okay, tell me someone's dyslexic. That just tells me your intelligence level's here, but yet your reading level's here. But then I always say, let's get 3 to 5 why questions to really get to the root cause of what's the underlying cause of this. I use a simple example all the time. If a kid says, I don't like soccer, I would say, why? And if I'm afraid the ball's gonna hit me in the head. Why? I can't really tell where it is. Why? Because my eyes aren't giving me the right information. I go, oh, that's probably the root cause, let's deal with that. Because if you can deal with that root cause, if dyslexia is a running condition, for instance, I say, okay, you're a dyslexic runner. We do our testing, we say, your eye tracking is horrible. I don't think medically we're supposed to say that, but anyway, it is, it's horrible. We look at some of these and go, that's just not good at all. And so what happens is you look at that and you go, well, I'm not about to call you a dyslexic runner because I just discovered you're wearing 30-pound shoes. I said, let's make your shoes lighter first. Let's see if you're still a dyslexic runner. But having said that, I never have, and hopefully I don't ever, if I ever say this, it slipped out because I never plan on saying, we cure ADHD, we cure dyslexia. But at any given time, I have a dozen people in our clinic right now with ADHD. I have another dozen with dyslexia. Afterwards, I don't have focusing problems like these two. Oh, I don't have problems like this. Something that's huge that I don't ever say we treat this, but the success we've had on people with anxiety, it's just been amazing, the changes. But I go, 70% of what we're processing is coming through the visual system. It's there, and a whole other scenario that I had planned on getting into today, but there's a receptor in the eye nobody knew was there until 2002, and so the new one was discovered about 5 weeks ago, if you can believe that. So it's just pretty amazing. And when they discovered this at Duke, they named it AI. Of all things like that. But this one they discovered in 2002, it's almost as bad. They named it intrinsically photosensitive ganglion cell receptor. So I just call it the third receptor. We have rods, cones, that third receptor. But that receptor goes to the pineal gland, controls circadian rhythms, wake-sleep cycles. I think everybody's heard by now, don't look at phones before bed. Blue light suppresses melatonin. That's the pathway. When people get seasonal affective disorder, that's the pathway. That's the root cause of that. But it also kind of has to do, like I love seeing that you all have natural light, at least in this room, you get with that too. Because from the standpoint, a study that came out that there were over 4,000 female healthcare workers working night shift around fluorescence and LED lights. Those have a much higher blue light content than what you're going to get from natural light or what's from building incandescent lights. They had a 70% greater incidence of breast cancers. And so that receptor that sends to the pineal controls melatonin, that was the 495 nanometer at night would suppress melatonin. And melatonin is not only a sleep hormone, it also actually has anti-carcinogenic effect. So my point is there's so much more I can't possibly, here's all the stuff we do, but there's, I'll kind of stay focused here, but I'm glad to answer questions about anything with that too. I just tend to bounce around. I apologize for that too. But, you know, we do work with all these different groups, you know, with that too. Like I said, the big thing for me really is kind of, you know, you guys read what got me in this field, bright kids not showing the rest of the world how bright they are. That's kind of what it says in a nutshell. It's just like, just something's not right. We try this, we try this, we try this, and that's the thing that's left out. I mean, most every school has speech, they have occupational, they have physical, but again, there's just not vision therapy. Again, there's 2 of us in Kentucky that are certified, so there's not enough. We are by far the most holistic, and we can work with balance problems, we can work with, you know, reaction time, you know, response, we all work on any and all those kind of things. There's hardly anything out there that we can't work through the visual system and improve your skills on how eyes, brain, body, mind all working together with that too. So we do the testing, then we see what sort of program you need. We do one-on-one program to do that, and then, you know, like I said, there's all these different groups, but the main takeaway I want everybody to kind of leave here with is just, it is with 75% of kids with reading problems have BVD. So that to me should be the first place you start looking when there's somebody having a performance problem. And our testing will say, is that a cause of the problem? You know, we can kind of see if that is or isn't a problem that causes the problem with that too. And so I always want to leave time for questions. I don't know if you guys have any questions or thoughts or anything from up here. And I want to stress, we do, I think I shared with you, we do now have a clinic in Somerset. I don't know if you knew, we do now have, it's over on Bogle Street. We're just kind of right in the back of the hospital. If you know with Total Pediatrics, I don't know if you know Michael Coleman has, we're right across the hall from him and his clinic there, Professional Plaza, the name of the place, it's right at the back side of the hospital too.
What's the name of the place?
It's Neuro-Visual Performance Institute.
Y'all, I just want to point this out, and we're going to give you guys a copy. But this is a quality of life survey that you can kind of see and see if they score high, they probably are a good candidate for vision therapy, and all of our information is up on top.
Oh, the Somerset information.
Yeah, all the Somerset information. If you want to try diversity, that would be my guess, but.
And we still have a couple of things. One thing we just added this year with sales, and I'm so excited, OMST, optometric multisensory training. It's a bed you lie on, and you just lie there, that's all you do.
Well, there's only 2 in your room.
It stimulates your vestibular system. As you're doing symptotic, the light therapy through the visual system, as you're doing auditory, and it links all those together. And as you're getting those things working together, it started to feel lots of and it's a 12-day consecutive program. Many non-verbal autism patients, 12 days they can speak. It's wonderful for anxiety, our brain irritation, wonderful, like, get them where they feel like, I'm not alone, we don't have to like, okay, good, and what we're trying to tell them. Most things we do therapy-wise is top down, the brain's telling, going down this way. This is 100% bottoms up. There's so many different things I can't possibly cover that we do, but it's just, if there's any kind of performance issues, and we're, you know, there's almost always an answer for that. And you can, if you go online and look at the stuff, we'll have, like, oh, this explains this, explains this, those kind of things. These books we just kind of came up with those just past week, actually. We're constantly, we're starting trying to market because we really don't have an elevator talk to say, oh, here's what we do, here's what we do. Any other questions about anything? No, you don't, you're not getting referral. You just call the director.
And that's why I'm here, because y'all know.
And here's the Somerset number. If we don't, if we're out of network on everything with them too, everything we do can be submitted to insurance. And I tell everybody, it's kind of like braces, it's about half the people who coverage, half won't. Everything is, you do, but the first visit with me, it's an hour, we set aside with me, where I just assess and say, are you a good candidate, are you qualified? Who can help you do that too? We charge $107 for that first visit, you know, so we keep it where patients can come in and see if it's, and on that, I will, hey, here's stuff you can do, here's stuff you can do. When there are performance problems of any type, there's 4 choices. You can live with it, you can change your environment, you can use a crutch, or you can fix the problem. I said, there's nothing wrong with using any of these. I do these 2, but even when they come in, I'll give them, here's some stuff you can do on your own that you can, so they're gonna leave with, oh, cool, I have that I can do. And then, like I said, we can always modify programs to meet budgets and time, money, and that are all looking at this. We can kind of absolutely and say, hey, sorry about your luck. Well, here's good, better, best. How can we go ahead and work with this more? When we do insurance, they basically say, if you do 2 sessions and you can't show me a marked measured improvement, you have to stop doing therapy. And that's the crazy thing. It's like, I watch Capture Car and shake out her face, my body. And that's what we had to decide years ago. It's like, do we want to do what gets people better, or do we want to do what insurance allows us? And so I don't like that, but I've done that in the past before. It's like our hands were so tied, and we're able to do what we need to do things like OMST, do things like that, because they just don't understand what we do at all. And so we spend all our time. Well, here's what it's about. Here's how we work those kind of things.
Most of our students, where I'm at anyway, would be on Medicaid.
That's why.
So that's a big barrier.
We do on anybody, we know they're on Medicaid, they've already qualified for things, we give them half off, right off the bat, and they're half off on everything with that too. Kind of make it more affordable with that too. We still say, even within that, there's good, better, best categories, but still half off everything. Right. I'm for the day where we can do like sliding scales and things like that too, but right now it's like, hey, we gotta pay the line bills and things like that, unfortunately. Any other questions about anything? Oh, we're not far, as far as how far out on schedule, to some extent, we're not far off, we were just kind of up and going. And I don't want to be down 6 months, so you can get in to see me for sales when we have everything, usually within 2 weeks, you know, so we basically don't want to get so busy we can't help everything. We just hired a new doctor, we just kind of make sure we go. We're there, we hired a doctor, you know, do that, or set up another clinic, so we don't want to, in case you don't have to, whereas some of my peers, I say, oh, we're down 6 months per year. That's crazy, patients need help, and it's frustrating, so that's something I want to make sure it never gets to be the case. Run the practice. We can get people interested. Any other questions? Thanks, I know you guys are on the schedule, so I'll